And probably if you're in the business of thinking about making money or running your company, the growth of the economies of the population is likely to move from 2.7 trillion to 10 trillion. And that's quite a conservative estimate in terms of the economic activity of those populations. This is a chart I don't expect you to read, but it actually is a scattergram showing you the fertility rate, which is the vertical axis, and the degree of urban living in different Muslim countries around the world. What's really important about this is as we move into our cities and as our wealth increases and our health and our economic prosperity and our living standards, then the number of children we have reduces. And perhaps our need to have this number of children reduces, and you start rapidly falling away from the 4 and 5 children per woman down to 2 and 3 and more the developed world economies. So the tail off of growth is quite easy to forecast around the rate at which there's urbanization in Muslim countries. So what does that mean for the world? And then I'll bring it down to what does it mean perhaps for you and us later on. Thinking about this, the United Kingdom ran its empire from about 1850 to 1950. So the UK ran the world for about 100 years. The United States took over running the world from 1950, and that's still the current situation in terms of global political and economic influence. It's forecast fairly clearly now that Asia will be dominant as the economic powerhouse for growth and overall economic activity in the future, but probably as interesting and ultimately as exciting is the global population dominance in the future is liable to come from the Muslim population. So from a global influence and setting an agenda, this is a slide I think that we'll revert back to in years to come when we see how the influence is garnered around the world and how we change the governance and the values and the behaviour and the systems that we put in place that have traditionally been run on a Judeo-Christian background coming out of the UK and the United States. So a great deal of change in terms of how we govern the world and who governs it and what value system lies behind that governorship. We've heard a number of interesting comments about the halal economy, and we've talked about sort of finance to farm to fork to finance and the melding of those industries. It's really exciting to attend a number of halal conferences and pick up the strands and themes of the industries that are being focused on by different players. And really this is a small list of the economies that are having increasing influence by the halal community, and the world halal economy is massively larger than already the exciting position laid out for us for finance and halal in food that was talked about yesterday. So enormous growth, and of course growth comes from standards, and every industry that has been born in the entrepreneurial white heat of excitement needs at some point to standardise and regulise its approach to the future. And technology had the IEEE standards body, and TCP/IP allowed data communications around the world to become completely plug and play and transparent, and the rest is history, if you like, in terms of the internet and how we communicate with one another. And that's been the same for food and for fashion, in terms of standards for clothing sizes. It's the same for all sorts of industries. The requirement for standardization should come before massive growth. I work with an industry, the insurance industry around the world, setting standards. I work with the World Standards Body, Accord, and they're about 100 years late in setting the standards for data structures. And I can assure you, retrofitting standards on an industry that is well established and is expecting high growth right now is exactly the wrong time to put standards in place. The right time is always before growth. Foundations become before building structures. Get the foundations wrong and the structures are weak, and they fall away later. So what you're doing is vital, but I would say the urgency is now to get those standards accepted and moved out on the largest possible scale as quickly as possible. So what else is happening in the world that might matter? Aging population. One of the reasons this matters is that we're going to double the number of 60-year-olds in the world in the next 40 years. Now that means the services, the markets, the attitude of older people is quite different to the attitude of younger people. The 25-year-old Turks who want to change the world with their energy and exciting challenge to the way the older folk do things are in one part of the world, and we're seeing a lot of that in the MENA region. And of course, on the other hand, Europe's getting ready to have a rest. Average age around 43. So the point is that markets behave differently according to the demographic profile, and those profiles need to be taken account of for so many reasons, probably too many to go into now, but there's a huge difference as to where those populations reside, and of course a lot of the Muslim countries have very young cohorts of population that set them apart from established markets in the world. This is a profile of Malaysia's life expectancy over the last 200 years. And along this chart is income, if you like, per capita, per person, and the vertical chart is the number of years of life expectancy. And it's now around about 75, 76 on average in Malaysia, and it was down at 30 just 200 years ago. So that has been a dramatic change here in terms of expectancy, and of course it's rising very fast indeed.